From filmmaker Ronnie Yu comes the terrifying versus match that took the better part of 2 decades to finally materialize after dozens of failed attempts, failed scripts, and snafus with the rights holders. But alas, just 10 years after New Line Cinema acquired the rights to Jason Voorhees, the house that Freddy built was finally ready to unleash the crossover event of the century that saw 2 franchises come together for one splatterfest of gore and violence, Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street. Let's take a look at Freddy versus Jason.
Make them remember me, Jason. Make them remember what fear tastes like!
I've been away from my children for far too long.
In the vividly haunting closing scene of Jason Goes to Hell, the landscape of horror cinema shifted dramatically as viewers witnessed, perhaps with bated breath, the iconic hand of Freddy Krueger piercing through the soil to seize Jason's mask, dragging it down into the abyss, a gesture that held the promise of a future face-off that could potentially shake the foundations of the horror genre. This fleeting, yet monumental encounter initiated a decade-long period of fervent speculation and anticipation, fueled by a seemingly unending stream of Fangoria articles dissecting every whisper and rumor surrounding the prospective showdown between the 2 behemoths of fright, Freddy and Jason. As the millennium turned, whispers grew into more concrete murmurs, echoing in the halls of horror fandom. And finally, as the calendar pages flipped steadily towards the fall of 2002, the moment that seemed almost mythical became grounded in reality. In the warming embrace of September's arrival, the gears of production ground into motion, with cameras capturing the first visuals that signified the clash of titans was no longer a figment of imagination, but a forthcoming spectacle set in celluloid, pulling in audiences with the promise of witnessing the clash of horror's most notorious icons, sealing a chapter of apprehensive wait, while pledging the dawn of an era where nightmares would take form, far beyond the bounds of sleep, in a cinematic duel where fear was the only guaranteed victor.
Babe, you know I don't like to be touched after, okay?
Fine, I'll go have a shower then.
Good. Your hair smells like menthols anyway.
Asshole.
In the late 1980s, spurred by fans' anticipation, New Line Cinema and Paramount Pictures attempted to collaborate on a crossover film featuring Freddy and Jason, but early negotiations spearheaded by Frank Mancuso Jr. and Tom McLaughlin stumbled. Despite the fluctuating fate of the franchise following the underwhelming performance of Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, the project persisted through a labyrinth of development struggles. Over the years, multiple industry personalities like Joseph Zito, Wes Craven, and Sean S. Cunningham engaged with it, with the latter even developing Jason X to retain interest in the series amidst the delays. The project saw numerous scripts and ideas from a variety of screenwriters, including Louis Abernathy with his Nightmare 13, Freddy Meets Jason, and works by notable names like David J. Shaw and Peter Briggs. It underwent several rewrites and director considerations, including a moment where Guillermo del Toro and Peter Jackson were approached without success. Despite challenges, including disagreements over script quality and budget concerns, the early 2000s brought a resurgence of efforts, with writers Mark Swift and Damian Shannon developing a satisfactory script which David S. Goyer helped to refine. The directorial role saw refusals from many, including Wes Craven and Guillermo del Toro, before Ronnie Yu took the helm, accorded considerable creative freedom. The ambitious project, which at one point considered featuring Pinhead from the Hellraiser series, continued evolving until its eventual realization standing as a testimony to the tumultuous journey of bringing the iconic Freddy vs. Jason battle to the big screen. In 1999, Robert Englund was confirmed for his 8th role as Freddy Krueger in an upcoming film. By August 2002, Kelly Rowland and Brad Renfro had joined the cast, although Renfro was later replaced by Jason Ritter a week before production began. Meanwhile, Kane Hodder's reprisal as Jason Voorhees faced uncertainty as there were plans to, quote, reinvent the character. The lead role went to Monica Keena after a meticulous search, and the supporting cast included Canadian actors such as Catherine Isabelle and Lachlan Monroe. Despite efforts to have Betsy Palmer reprise her role as Pamela Voorhees from the original Friday the 13th, salary disputes led to Paula Shaw taking on the role. Despite having portrayed Jason in the previous 4 films, Kane Hodder was not recast in Freddy vs. Jason, to the dismay of Cunningham, who favored Kane Hodder. New Line producers sought a fresh portrayal of Jason Voorhees, favoring a taller, slower, and more deliberate presence. Consequently, the role was given to Canadian stuntman Ken Kersinger, who had a height advantage over Hodder and previously worked on Jason Takes Manhattan. Kersinger, standing at 6 feet 5 inches, was notably taller than both Hodder and Robert Englund. His height and experience, including doubling for Hodder in Jason Takes Manhattan, played a significant role in securing his casting, which was finalized only after reviewing his on-film appearance in a scene walking down Elm Street. In Freddy vs. Jason, a sinister plan unfolds as Freddy Krueger, now forgotten by the newer generation thanks to their parents supplying them with anti-dreaming pills, orchestrates a fearsome comeback. Unwilling to fade into obscurity, he resurrects the infamous hockey mask-wearing killer, Jason Voorhees, unleashing him upon Elm Street to sow havoc and reignite the citizens' fear of Krueger himself. The horrifying scheme works initially, with people associating the fresh wave of violence with the nightmare-invoking Freddy Krueger, thereby restoring some of his lost power. However, as Jason steals some of Krueger's prospective victims, tensions escalate between the two nightmarish beings, spiraling into a ferocious battle for dominance. Caught in this relentless cycle of violence are a group of Elm Street teenagers who find themselves trying to decipher the true cause behind the sudden surge in brutality, hoping to find a way to banish Krueger from their lives for good. The series of deadly encounters, fueled by a complicated web of jealousy, vengeance, and power struggles, leads to a climactic battle at the infamous grounds of Camp Crystal Lake, promising resolution and hoping to satisfy the desire for survival and peace among the terror-stricken inhabitants of Elm Street. I personally maintain a deep-seated affection for Freddy vs. Jason, a sentiment that has stood the test of time ever since I reveled in its theatrical release, a joy I relived several times over on the big screen. Ken Kersinger, although not as impressive as Hodder, mustered a commendable performance given the narrative dynamics at play. Undoubtedly, a considerable portion of my admiration is reserved for Robert Englund, who reprised his iconic role as Freddy Krueger with a virtuosity that bore testament to his unyielding mastery over the character even after all those years. As for the ensemble cast, there was a notable harmony in their portrayals, which enhanced the overall narrative, allowing for a thoroughly enjoyable viewing experience. While the story did take some liberties, intertwining the established timelines of both franchises somewhat muddily, it succeeded in carving out a distinct narrative space that felt sufficiently robust and well articulated to shepherd the audience swiftly towards the much-anticipated climactic confrontation between the two behemoths of horror. Admittedly, When placed in the broader context of both franchises' legendary portfolios, Freddy vs. Jason might not stake the claim for the pinnacle position. Despite this, however, and even bearing in mind the array of creative choices that I find less than satisfactory, this crossover extravaganza retained a delightful edge that keeps drawing me back in. The movie evokes a blend of nostalgia and exhilaration, a testament to a time when the two titans of terror graced the screens together, offering not just a duel of fates, but a fusion of frights that has a unique charm, one that remains untouched and irresistibly enjoyable, even as time marches on. The film dazzles with a visual palette reminiscent of an MTV music video, boasting a set design that stands as a breathtaking entity in its own right. Accompanying this vibrance is the magnificent original score crafted by Graham Revell, a score that arguably stands as one of the finest in both respective franchises. The contemporary soundtrack further elevates this experience, offering stellar contributions from the likes of Slipknot and Mushroomhead, alongside El Nino and Chimera, plus a slew of others, melding seamlessly to enhance the rich tapestry of the movie's audiovisual landscape. It's indisputable that Kane Hodder should have been cast as Jason Voorhees. This sentiment rings true for many fans, even to this day. The unmistakable presence that Hodder would have brought to the role would have been unparalleled, offering a depth to the character of Jason Voorhees that would have reverberated powerfully within the franchise's rich history. This casting choice would have also finally realized the highly anticipated face-off between two heavyweights, Robert Englund and Kane Hodder. While there is an acknowledgement that Ken Kersinger's portrayal was competent, it is still widely felt that Hodder was the one who truly deserved to don that infamous hockey mask for a fifth time. Moreover, Hodder's passion and unique understanding of the horror genre would have undoubtedly brought a richer, more nuanced depiction to the character, resonating well with Jason's established personality. Thus, the lingering sentiment remains. A golden opportunity was missed, a moment in horror cinema history that regrettably will remain in the realm of what could have been, forever echoing with the collective sighs of what should have been a phenomenal portrayal of Jason Voorhees by Kane Hodder. Robert Englund may never reprise his role as Freddy again on screen, but this movie wonderfully honors his iconic portrayal. The film aligns with the original franchise's continuity, deviating from the meta-version seen in New Nightmare. As always, Englund delivers an outstanding performance. And if this movie truly was his swan song in the role, then that's perfectly fine. Most of my complaints with the film come from a creative place, based on what I personally would or would have not done with the story, but as far as what's on screen in the movie, I find it incredibly hard to want to change anything, because of how much I love everything in it, even some of the cheesier and quirkier moments, some of which have hilariously aged terribly. However, I strongly dislike the mischaracterization of Freddy as a pedophile instead of solely just a child killer, which he's always been in this continuity, never a pedophile. And I find Jason's fear of water to be an illogical choice that is as stupid a choice as they come. I mean, we've only seen the dude willingly embrace water in almost every movie he's been in. But what do the fans know, am I right? Aside from those aspects, I largely enjoy this movie, and if you haven't seen the movie in a while or haven't seen it ever, I implore you to see this movie. It is an absolute blast, and it is as 2003 as 2003 can be. It is as fun as a horror movie could possibly be, and I love every single moment of it. With that said, Ronnie Yu's 2003 horror matchup, Freddy vs. Jason, is, and no, I'm not lying when I say this, a masterpiece.